Hello and welcome to the romance track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z and Morgan Brice, and we're going to talk about why we love to write about love. But before we do, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Jen.
Hi, Jen FitzGerald from North Texas. I have 13 books published as of last December, and write male, mostly contemporary historicals coming out in June.
Awesome. Chantel.
Hi, I'm Chantel Mer, and I actually co-write with Scott Shelley, who is here also. And we write male romance as well. And we just had a book come out in January and one in February, and we have another one coming out in March.
Awesome. Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet Walden-West, and I write paranormal and contemporary romance and urban fantasy. My newest project is the Region 2 series, which is a paranormal, and book 3 comes out next month.
Okay. Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan Scott Shelley, and as Chantel said, we co-write together. We are our most recent series, or actually is our rec league rugby, I never say that right, series. And we are having a blast writing that together.
Okay, Nancy.
I'm Nancy Northcott. I write historical fantasy for Falstaff Books, and I independently publish a science fiction series with Jeanne Adams called Outcast Station. And I also write several subgenres of romance, and my latest project is relaunching my paranormal romance series since the rights reverted to me a couple of years ago. By the time you see this, the first 3 books will be up.
You also published the Kingdom Castle series that Eugenie and I are in.
I do. I forget that I have a publisher hat.
VJ.
Hi, everyone. I'm VJ Allison. I'm a romance author from Nova Scotia, Canada. And although I write mostly small town contemporary romances, I recently ventured into the paranormal range with my latest book, Eternity's Gamble. Right now, I'm working on a contemporary romance, book 3 of my Feather Tartan series. It's called Honestly, and it features a woman by the name of Dana who meets a man with a secret. It's set up in the valley at the Bay of Fundy, highest tides in the world.
Nice. Jeannie.
I'm Jeanne Adams. I write romantic suspense. I write paranormal romantic suspense. I write urban fantasy. All of those have a romance arc. And then, as Nancy said, we write the space adventure Outcast Station and Kingdom Castle together.
And I'm Gail Z and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy where it's mostly adventure, but of course you can't fight the bad guys all the time. So there's a thread of romance in all of the books, most of the books, not quite all. As Morgan Brice, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance with more romance and fewer explosions. So what attracted you to writing romance? What got you into writing love stories? Chantel?
I like the happy ending. I mean, like I like the happily ever after, or happily ever, happily for now. And I am a social worker by training, and so I hear a lot of yucky stuff. So I just like the happy part. That was what really attracted me.
Okay, Janet.
I fell into romance accidentally from urban fantasy, but then I realized that all my favorite stories and everything that I like to write always had a romantic thread in it. So full on romance. Now, I love the fact that a relationship can create so much tension internally for the characters that something they have to work on with themselves, and externally in the plot. You never run out of things to write about with romance.
This is true. Susan.
So like Janet just said, it's how love changes everything. Love changes you, love changes your relationships just with that person, with maybe how you see the world, with maybe how your relationship with someone will affect your relationships with other people going forward. You know, characters' backstories and everything. And I love love. I like happy things. I don't like when there's fighting and tension. And I know we need them for the books. And, you know, I have problems putting conflict in because I'm the classic middle child. But I love love. And those are the things I gravitate toward, whether it's reading, watching things. And I want to make the world a little happier place by putting a nice little heart on everything. And that's why I write romance.
That sounds fair. Nancy?
Well, as everybody else has said, the happy ending. I mean, lots of people like books where the protagonist comes out of it wiser, but hasn't really triumphed. And that's fine. You know, we all like what we like, but I like ones where the good guys win and it's a happy ending. So that's it for me. And it makes the stakes more personal. In our Outcast Station series, Jeanne and I don't have any romance going on so far, but the stakes are personal, but not as deeply personal as they are when your heart is involved.
Okay, Jeanne.
Well, what everybody said, and like Chantal said, you know, there's so much bad stuff in the world that even though I may put my characters through unmitigated hell in the process, there's always going to be that guarantee that they get their happy ending. And there's also no greater source of conflict between humans than relationships. So you get this great bundle of conflict and, you know, stuff to resolve. And it makes it interesting to write. And I've never been able to write a book without a body on the floor and a romance. So
This is true. BJ.
Oh my goodness. I think for me, it's the happy ending. I read romance books as like 11, 12 years old. And the more I read, the more I wanted to write them. And I've always known I wanted to be an author. And it just seemed natural to progress into the romance genre. I also like having the characters go through conflicts. They learn, they grow. I like to show that in my books too. Love is love.
Yeah. And I agree. I love the happy ending. All of my books, whether they're Gail or Morgan, have a happy ending in that the good guys win. That's my promise to readers. The bad guys win enough in real life. The good guys win in my books. Now they might be, you know, battered and bruised and beat up, but they're going to win. And you always know who the heroes are. And the same is very true with my Morgan Brice romances. Plus, you get a very happy ending of a different kind. And that brightens everybody's day. Jen?
Well, I guess the happy ending. I grew up as the only child of a single mom who never, I mean, she had boyfriends along the way, but she didn't really have a happily ever after either with my dad or really with anybody else. And then when my dad remarried, my stepmother was an avid reader of Danielle Steele, and while most of hers are more journeys than romances, most of them do have an epic romance, at least the early ones. And so I started reading Danielle Steele as, you know, a teenager. So I think it was just a natural progression when I took up writing that it was going to be romance, because that's just the bulk of what I'd read. So I knew it, you know, from a writing perspective, I knew what it was about. And of course, the happy ending, you want what maybe your mom didn't have or what you didn't get early on or whatever. You just want to sort of live in a little bit of a fantasy world, because the outside world can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. So.
Okay. Well, what are your favorite tropes? Because romance runs on its tropes. Janet?
Definitely enemies to lovers. And along that same line, opposites attract, because they both give you so much room to explore each character and then hopefully try to find something that is similar, that they have in common, that they can bond over, and just bridge that gap between them and bring two totally different worlds together. And Gail, after listening to you a couple of times, I also realized every one of my books has to have some comfort in it. Someone has to get roughed up and someone has to take care of them.
Because we love our beat up men. Yes, yes. Susan?
So my favorite genre is sports romance because I love watching it. I love the team aspect of the guys, whether it's MM or MF. I like how the camaraderie of the guys are together, or the women, if it's a women's team. I have a heroine who played hockey for the women's team. We don't see her playing that in the book, but I like the team aspects, and I love friends to lovers. I love enemies to lovers. I love the trope, the grumpy one is soft for the sunshine one. Like I love it all. The one I don't really love is like secret babies too much, but there better be a good reason why it's a secret baby. That's all. I like them, but I need a good reason. But yeah, so probably friends to lovers and sports is my favorite.
Okay, Nancy.
Well, I like to say that I don't have a favorite trope, but when you look at my books, that's clearly not true. So I tend to use a lot of second chance at love / friends to lovers. And sometimes it's hard to classify which one of those it actually is. I have written one secret baby book, and I'm with Susan. I think in real life, there's a very slim range of reasons that would be acceptable, which is my problem with the trope. And that's not to throw shade on anybody who likes it. We all like what we like.
Right.
But I did write it, and to cut a very long story short, I had not processed in my brain. I see Jeannie laughing at me and Gail because they've heard this story before. But yeah, it's I was working on this story for an anthology that Jeannie and I did with Karen Crane that's not available anymore, although the stories are. And it just wasn't coming. The romance just was not working. The heroine was raising her sister's child, and the hero was the father, but he didn't know it. And so I was trying to have the heroine fall in love with the hero, yet not tell him this was his child. And it just wasn't working. And so I called, I had this great epiphany moment, and I called Jeannie and I went, I know why I'm having trouble with this. It's a secret baby story. And there was this little silence, and she went, and? Because apparently everybody but me had glommed onto the fact that this was a secret baby story. And so I changed it so that nobody knew who the father was, because then it started to flow and it started to work. But for me, it's a very difficult trope.
Nancy, the name of the anthology was Who's Your Daddy?
Yeah, but Karen handled that part. I did.
There's a story there.
Yes, Space the Final Frontier.
Yes. Jeannie, how about you?
Oh my gosh, I love so many of the tropes. I'm like Susan, I am a huge fan of sports stories because big sports fan all the way around. I really love friends to lovers, second chance, and I adore Beauty and the Beast tropes. And especially the second chance ones that are like years apart, whereas, not, I just fell out of love with you and then 3 months later I decided you were okay. I like the longer term, wow, it's been years since I saw you.
Yeah.
My, you've changed.
BJ.
Well, I like the second chance. I like the small town ones where everybody knows everybody else, all the gossip, because I live in a small town. I also like the beta hero, like Beauty and the Beast. Oh my heavens, I love so many tropes. Goodness. Friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, not so much as friends to lovers. I have to admit, I do like the secret baby one sometimes if it's done right. Okay, sorry. In fact, I'm writing one later on after the one I'm writing now. Heavens, there's so many. Damaged hero, damaged heroine, break up with him to save him, that kind of thing. Oh, just love them to pieces. I just love romance books.
I forgot to add that one of my favorite tropes that I don't currently write, but I have been reading a ton of the past couple of years because it's my favorite escape, is paranormal, just in general, paranormal romance, just shifters, just magic, all of that. I love
Yeah.
escaping into that. It is my absolute favorite thing.
Love paranormal too.
As we've said, I love hurt comfort. There's just something about a guy who's hurt and another
Yeah.
guy who needs to take care of him, and it forces all those messy feelings to the top, and I just love that. Paranormal, as Jeannie said, everything's better with a dead body in it. In my world, everything's better with a ghost, or if that dead body gets up and starts doing something, or you need to stop the dead body, just throw me some magic in there, and I love that. I love Fake Boyfriend and Friends to Lovers and Second Chance. All of those are just so much fun. Forced Proximity. They're just so many great tropes, but for me, it's always got to have some element of the supernatural in it. Lots of ghosts and magic, because that just makes everything better. Jen?
Well, and from my perspective, and Nancy's too, I'm sure if there's an explosion or two in there.
Yes. Make things go boom.
Yes.
Well, I think thinking about the ones that I remember that I've read that I really liked, and then some of the ones that I've written is either a redemption story. One of the heroes was not a good guy, say in a previous book in the series, and he has his come to Jesus moment at some point and gets his happy ever after at the end. And also forbidden love, I think. For those of you who write hockey, at least male hockey, that's still a big kind of, hockey players don't come out. We've got one guy who's a prospect still, but nobody in the NHL that I know of has come out openly as gay. And so a lot of my books that I've written are guys who have been in the closet, and then, through the trials that they go to, they come out. And then my very favoriteest author, one of the first books I read of her, Eli Easton, she has 2 books with male Amish characters who, have to decide what are they going to do about their orientation. Are they going to come out? Are they going to stay in the closet or whatever? And those just really, really touched my heart. So I think those are my 2 most favorite tropes, is kind of the forbidden love and then the redemption arc.
And how about you, Chantel?
My favorite is usually whatever I'm reading at the moment. But I do love, I love a Friends to Lovers or Second Chance. I really do. But whatever I'm reading is at that moment, that's my favorite.
Okay. Now I've got to ask, because the Winter Olympics just finished up, and I've heard hockey, I've heard sports. Does anybody here write any of the sports that were in the Winter Olympics? Figured I'd ask. Tell us what Winter Olympic sports you wrote.
Hockey.
Okay.
Hockey.
Okay.
Just hockey.
So we don't have any ice dancing or skiers or anything.
Not yet.
Oh, but that would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Not yet, but fun. That would be fun.
Yeah.
I know next to
someone needs to write one with curling in it.
Yes.
That would probably be
I
more
wanna see one of those.
Canadian than anything.
Ice dancing would be unique though, because you've got a lot of
drama already built into that sport. Holy cow.
ice
and
dancing,
gosh,
skating, all the skiing stuff,
well, in
No,
the
I-
summer, if you were to go to the
can't-
Summer Olympics, you got a lot of room there too. Between gymnastics and track and all that. Oof, you'd have some fun with that.
all those tight outfits. Moving right along.
Oh, diving for sure. Let's go for
Oh,
the male.
diving,
The male
yes.
has more diving.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Now, we talked about conflict. There's so many different ways to bring that into a book. What are your favorite ways to create that conflict that has to really happen to move the plot forward. And so what are your favorites and what are the ones that you try not to, you shy away from? Susan?
Oh, so I do struggle with putting it in because I like things to be happy for everyone. And I know you can't do that. So like with creating conflict, like something that Chantel and I have done together is we go back and we look at the characters like backstory, like why are they the way they are? And whether it's conflict of the book that we just had come out, we've got a single dad, and then the other hero is 10 years younger, and they look at life a little differently, and this guy does not see himself like having a kid and potentially being a parental figure at some point because the way he was raised wasn't traditional, and he doesn't know that he would be good at it. And so that's something he struggles with. We also have another hero that plays rugby, and his hero does not like that he plays such a dangerous sport, especially when he gets hurt. And we have that hurt comfort in the book that we love. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I wouldn't write. I don't like killing people unless they're really bad and deserve it. But I like to keep my books a little lighter. I mean, there's definitely a lot of it is more of like emotional stuff, or yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it's I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this. I'm sorry.
The answer is good. Don't worry about it. That was a perfect answer. Nancy, how about you?
Well, if you're doing a second chance at love story, you've got an automatic conflict built in because whatever drove them apart before, if they'd been able to resolve it, they wouldn't have been apart. So now you have them trying to resolve it with the problem layered in that now it's old scars, not just a disagreement, but old scars. And with friends to lovers, it's kind of similar because it's like we take this step and it doesn't work out and I lose my best friend.
Yeah.
And so whether you're writing male, female, male, male, female, female, that's the same. It works the same way in terms of the conflict. And then with enemies to lovers, like in 2 of my spy books, they work for competing agencies. One of them works for government agency. One of them works for a multinational covert agency that was created to go around the rules. And so the people who color inside the lines really disapprove of the people who color outside the lines, who think the people who color inside the lines get credit for what they do a lot. So you have, that sets up competing values, because if your values were the same, you would work for the other agency, you know, so that kind of sets that up as well. And so one of the things that we do, Jeanne and I used to be in a plot group together. And one of the things that we did was we would look at what emotional scar does this character have? And what character can we match them with that will aggravate that? And then they have to work that out. And, you know, it's kind of brutal to do that to the characters sometimes. And it's hard. If, like Susan was saying, you like everything to be happy and you're writing romance because it's happy. Well, first you have to make them miserably unhappy before they get to be happy. And so I think that requires a fair bit of thought, because if you don't set the characters up at the beginning, as I'm sure everybody here would agree, the conflict isn't going to sustain the book. And that's that's the goal, to sustain the book.
Okay. Jeanne.
Gosh, I love conflict. I mean, the background music for most of my writing should be "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor." So I'm usually starting with why these people shouldn't be together and what's keeping them apart. One of my favorite conflicts, which you mentioned kind of a little bit earlier, Gail, is I really love the conflict of magic, no magic. Somebody has it, believes in it, knows about it. Somebody doesn't have it, know it, believe about it. Also the conflict of people who have come up from really bad situations or whatever and don't believe in love versus the person who does. That's, you know, I love all the other conflicts everybody's talked about too, but that's one of those conflicts that I think you can layer in a way that's so subtle that you have your reader going, oh yeah, got it. At some point long before your characters go, what? What do you mean I don't believe in love? Of course I do. So I think sometimes you get the fun of, we as authors get the fun of thinking about how can we not only make these characters illogically attracted to each other, but then how can we make it really complicated for them to get their happily ever after, and yet still get their happily ever after.
Okay. EJ.
Oh, the conflicts. Oh, I love putting conflicts into my books, especially if it means the person can heal and grow from their pasts. What Nancy said about the second chance. Oh, that's a big, big, big one for me. Another one that I like to put in would be like learning to love again after being abused by a partner, having just about being raped or being raped in the past and being healed, male or female, or some kind of abuse or something, because I saw a lot of it. My town is small and you see a lot of that around this area, like especially back in the 80s and 90s when I grew up. So I like that.
The trust issues. Yeah.
Yes, the trust issues. And the friends to lovers is another one I like. Enemies to lovers, I might try that eventually sometime, but class differences, like somebody rich or from a rich family that's, doesn't care about the wealth, falling in love with somebody who is like a social worker, criminalist, that kind of thing. There's always some kind of conflict in that respect because they expect like certain things at the wealthy level, but yet the other ones here, no, that doesn't work in the real world, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love all those. I agree with Jeannie on the believe in paranormal, not believe in paranormal. That can be such an interesting point of argument between people. For me, I think as long as the conflict makes sense, I'm okay with it. I get annoyed when it's obviously something that if two grownups had just used their words for 5 minutes, we could have, avoided all of that.
Right.
So if you're going to have a misunderstanding, it has to be really grounded in like that backstory where, yes, that's exactly the conclusion somebody would jump to if they had that in their past. And it may take their front brain a while to catch up and go, I jumped to a conclusion there that maybe wasn't fair. But as long as it makes sense and it isn't, okay, this was just thrown in to, get us the next 20 pages, I'm good with it. How about you, Jen?
Well, a lot of mine, like Susan said, is backstory, but also external circumstances. My first hockey hero, the first book in the series, not the first hockey hero, he was from Russia. So right there, you automatically have, that is completely verboten, in Russia. So he was just totally afraid of wanting to come out. And I've had some where, one hero didn't even really know he was gay. In fact, he was pansexual. He was more interested in aspects of a person than their gender. And so that also ended up being a friends to lovers because they were best friends. He had just gotten out of a horrible relationship with a woman who was evil witch, and then discovered, that he wasn't interested in looking for another relationship because he had everything that he wanted out of his best friend. The only thing really missing was the sex, of course. And so he had to kind of overcome his own internal, but I'm not gay. No, but it wasn't really about the gender. So that was a conflict for him trying to overcome that. So a combination of the wound, whatever that might be, wherever that might have started, whether just growing up in a situation like in Russia, or another hockey hero. His mother was the the daughter of a very pulpit beating Methodist church where that was absolutely so. That's all he heard growing up is that is wrong, that is wrong, that is wrong, that's evil, it's whatever. And he's like, so you're trying to tell me this whole time that I've done the best I can. I've never done anything wrong except I'm bad in the eyes of the Lord because of this thing, you know, that I can't help. And so that's usually how I come up with.
Okay. Chantel.
Yeah, so I have to know what the when I'm writing a book on my own, I write a trauma scene for both of the main characters, and sometimes some of the secondary characters that never sees the light of day, but it tells me what their issue is. When Susan and I write, we talk about it really is about backstory for me. Like, I need to know why a character is going to react in a certain way and what is informing their reactions. And sometimes Susan and I will plot something out and we'll say to each other, you know, I'm not really sure why this character is doing this. We'll say, like, we haven't figured this out yet. And you know, as we kind of talk about the characters more and talk about the story more, then we'll come up with more of the backstory, and then that like moves, you know, like sometimes we change things that we've kind of plotted out. So for me, like, the conflict really comes from whatever baggage the characters are carrying, because like I said, I feel like it informs everything that they do and how they react and the decisions that they make. So that's that's where I get the conflict.
Okay. Janet, how about you?
I always seem to set up the main conflict as one of the characters wants or has to do something that the other character is just dead set against. Whether it is, you know, one character needs to become polished so that he can appear in public, you know, mingle, lure people into his business that way. And the stylist has to get him there. And his whole thing is, I don't belong in front of the camera. This feels fake. I can't do it. I love scenes like that. But then underneath it all, it's just like everyone has mentioned, baggage, you know, the wound that they have. And mine always seems to boil down to one of the people in the relationship just doesn't believe in relationships. They don't believe in love. And I never set out to do that consciously, but it just happens. And so I just embraced it in the last series because the people, half of the couple here literally don't believe in love. They are conditioned that there's a team, and the team that they are on, that they have been raised in from birth, supplies all of their emotional needs. There is nothing else. And they look at civilians as, you know, these people are so sad, you know, they have this concept of romance because they're trying to have the kind of connections that we grew up with, you know. And it's like they watch, you know, like rom-coms or read romance books as fantasy. You know, it's just like, you know, their version of Lord of the Rings with, you know, orcs and elves. You know, this is fun to watch, but it's not real.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
We have blown through our time already, so I'd like to go around again and have everyone say what their new, upcoming, recent book is and where we can find you online, starting with Nancy.
Well, you can find me online at nancynorthcott.com. I have a Facebook author page, but I'm not there very much. And you can find me on Twitter, where I spend more time than is good for me, and I am at Nancy Northcott. And as I said earlier, I'm reissuing my paranormal romance series, The Light Mage Wars, which have been rebranded. And this is the first book, which is out now. And this is the second book, which is out now, but without the stripe across it, because I haven't got author copies yet. And the third book will be up by the time you see it. So those are about ghouls and mages fighting ghouls and demons in South Georgia to keep the demons out of this world.
Cool. Jeannie?
Well, first of all, they're really excellent books too, because I've read them and they're awesome. I'm Jeanne Adams. You can find me at jeanneadams.com on on the web, and then you can find me on most social medias at Jeanne Adams. You can find me on here on Continual a whole lot. And just generally, like Nancy said, I spend way too much time on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm currently in Scotland doing my master's degree. So I post lots of pictures of Scotland on all my social media.
All right, VJ.
You can find me at vjallison.com. My latest release is Eternity's Gamble via Decadent Publishing. I'm on various social medias. I'm thinking about starting up TikTok soon for some videos. And next month, I'm celebrating 5 years of my debut novel, Stricken, which is the first of my Feathered Tartan series, and I hope to write a prequel to that sometime soon. But I spend most of my time on Facebook. I have an author page, author profile. I have my own readers group that I do takeovers in called VJ's VIP Lounge, and I'm on Twitter, BookBub, pretty much you name it, you can find me. Thank you for having us.
Sure. Jen?
The next release is in June on Midsummer, which is June 24th this year, because my epic Scottish Lowlander historical that has taken me 5 years or so, probably more, to get finished is releasing, and the opening bit, much like Outlander, is a time travel through a time portal from contemporary England to historical Scotland.
Yay!
It's very Lowlander. It's very Lowlander. It's not Highlander, but so that's coming out in June. I can be found FitzGeraldWriter.com. That's my blog and my website. I'm on Facebook, but not much. And Twitter, I'm only a consumer, pretty much, for hockey purposes. And I am on Goodreads, so that's me, Jen FitzGerald. Okay,
Chantel.
So you can reach me at chantelmer.com. Also, you can reach Susan and I at shelleyandmer.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And Susan and I, our most recent book is Smolder. That came out last week, right? February
Tuesday
15th. Yes. And our book Shine will be coming out March 22nd.
Okay. Janet.
I am literally everywhere as Janet Walden-West. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that good stuff. Although you can usually find me on Twitter if that's home. And I just had a cover reveal for the newest book in my series, the Region 2 series. And it is up for pre-order right now, and it will be out later this spring.
Okay. Susan.
So you can find me at susanscottshelley.com, and also, as Chantel said, at our joint website for our co-writing projects, shelleyandmer.com, and all of our links are in all of those places. And our most recent release is Smolder, which my ring light is going to kill. He's so pretty, and yeah, so I am pretty much everywhere as Susan Scott Shelley, except for Twitter, because it wouldn't fit. But I'm mostly on Instagram and occasionally the other places, but website is the best place for all of the links for everything.
And I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbrice.com. My reader groups are the World of Morgan Brice and the Shadow Alliance on Facebook. I'm on Twitter and Pinterest and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and pretty much everywhere else. It's a variation of those names. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm a huge Supernatural fan, so I run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook, but mostly you can find me here on Continual. So thank you all so much for sharing your day and your thoughts about love and romance with us. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more romance here on Continual, so we'll see you online.